Welcome to the Scalable Marketing Machine Podcast. I'm your host, Victoria Hajar, marketing consultant for female founders and creator of the Scalable Marketing Machine Accelerator. I've helped dozens of women grow and scale their businesses from 6 to 7 figures and beyond, helping founders like you to implement my proven growth system that focuses on brand communication, marketing strategy, building your lean team, and leadership. On this podcast, we talk all about what it takes to get to the next level in marketing and in life, focusing on practical, tactical advice that will help you grow your business and explode your revenue. Are you ready to learn? Let's dive in. Welcome to this week's episode of the Scalable Marketing Machine Podcast. I want to take a moment to just pause and ask you to join me in taking a deep breath, because we have now entered into quarter two of the year. And if you're anything like me, Q1 has been full of ups and downs. It's been full on. There's been a lot of focus. There's been a lot of things that have thrown me off. And so I love the beginning of a quarter as a fresh start. And so if you have had similar experiences, I invite you to join me in this process of re-looking at the most important things that we're doing in our business and making sure that our focus is actually in the right place. Now, last quarter, I spent a heck of a lot of time queuing you guys up on our brand communication strategy. So important to have the right messages going out to the right people at the right time in order to connect and convert with our prospects. But now I want to shift our focus a little bit into looking at really the tactical things that we do day to day in our marketing. And this is what we would refer to as the marketing strategy, right? What exactly are we doing for marketing strategy for our business to generate more leads, generate more awareness? This is the backbone of what marketing should be doing for your business. Although marketing, of course, probably touches a lot of different areas, but at its core, if you ask yourself, what is the purpose of the marketing arm of our business? And many of you would say just that. It's brand awareness and lead generation, right? And supporting the sales team. So let's start with one of the biggest problems that I see, especially when it comes to B2B businesses. There is a heck of a lot of emphasis put on sales, right? And so the marketing team tends to just be a supportive function of sales, and there isn't a heck of a lot of value placed on those intrinsic marketing activities that are going to do things like help build trust, help nurture, right? And when we kind of miss out on that part, we are not creating a cohesive and strong marketing strategy, right? Rather, we're sort of throwing spaghetti at the wall, and we're not really maximizing all of the benefits that marketing could be giving to our business. And so this is where, the next quarter, over the next few episodes, I'm going to really be leaning in on making an argument for why having a solid marketing strategy is indispensable for your business, regardless if you're B2B or B2C. But I'm especially speaking to those B2B because, again, these are the companies that I work with that I often see so much missed opportunity. And a lot of times there's just some basic things that are missing from the marketing program that could be enhancing not only the marketing portion, but also the sales and conversions that you're seeing in your business. So let's kind of start with some of the basics. What is a marketing strategy, right? And there's a lot of different ways to answer this question. So I'm just going to tell you what has worked for me in the past, because I've worked in marketing for many, many years, almost maybe 2 decades now. And at the beginning of my career, I was, just kind of doing what I see a lot of marketers out there doing, just kind of focusing on what is kind of the buzz, what's kind of everyone else is doing, right? So focusing a lot on social media, email marketing. I remember many years ago when I started my marketing career, SEO was like the thing. So we leaned all into SEO. Now, obviously, things ebb and flow, trends come in and out. And so after many years of kind of working in different marketing functions and seeing, yes, sometimes things worked, and when they worked, I couldn't really explain why. And things, when they didn't work, I equally couldn't explain why. It wasn't until I started working in-house for a marketing agency that I really understood what it meant to build a cohesive marketing program. And when I learned that things could be put together in a certain order that made sense, and so everything you do in marketing is actually working together as one unit to help kind of churn, to bring in and churn those prospects into paying customers, I just fell in love with the process, because within the process, I felt safe to know that I wasn't wasting my time, right? Safe for my shareholders to be able, my shareholders, the stakeholders that I was reporting to, that I could explain to him the why behind all of the marketing actions and how that rolled up to and contributed to ROI. Before having a marketing strategy framework that I worked against, it was very difficult for me to articulate all of these things, and let alone sort of look at the data and the metrics behind what we were driving in our marketing efforts and how that related to revenue. So having a marketing strategy that is cohesive, that is built upon a proven framework, is something that is going to give not only you and your team, right? You as the CEO or the founder of the business and your team, a North Star to all be sort of going after, right? That we're all moving in the same direction, but it also gives you a basis for testing, iterating, and improving. It also gives you a basis for really measuring data and being able to make data-driven decisions against what results you're getting. And so it's really interesting because I pulled a few statistics. So let me just look right here. So 68% of B2B businesses struggle with lead generation due to a lack of clear strategy. And this was from a survey done by HubSpot. And alternatively, Marketing Profs ran a survey that said companies that align their marketing and sales together generate 208% more revenue from their marketing efforts. So you can see that this isn't just fluff, right? This can actually mean real results in your business if you take it seriously. And I simply find that, especially with B2B businesses, there's just a lot of money being left on the table when it comes to marketing, just simply because there isn't a budget, there isn't the attention paid to it. And so it's not really working for you or your business, right? It's kind of more like a necessary evil to do sort of some of those basic things. But again, when done right and when constructed with a clear strategy that connects really well with your sales efforts, you're going to be able to increase the potency of everything that you're doing. So how exactly do we build a sales-focused marketing strategy, right? What does that even look like? So the framework that I work off, the one that I've created, which is a version of things that I've learned along the way on how to build an overarching client journey. But the framework that I developed is called the 24/7 Marketing Flywheel. Now, many of us look at marketing in terms of a funnel, right? We look at how many people are coming in at the top and kind of falling at the bottom, right? If you think of a visual of what a funnel looks like, right? And the reason why I prefer to use the analogy of a flywheel rather than a funnel is because we actually don't want people leaving at the end of our experience, right? We want happy repeat customers that are going to have a, fruitful lifetime value for our business. Because again, if we're not taking into account, our past clients and how they could come and be repeat clients or how they can help fill that pipeline again for us, we're missing huge opportunities, right? And when we build our marketing just around that top of the funnel, right? And with that funnel mentality, we're often spending and sometimes wasting a lot of money just to get those fresh new people in all the time, fresh new people in all the time. And what happens is we're paying for these fresh new people. And if they don't convert within a certain amount of time, we kind of stop interacting with them, right? And so this is a huge mistake. And so building against this framework I'm going to explain to you right now, it is a system that you can implement into your business to make sure that not only are we reaching brand new people each and every day, but how are we getting them ready to buy with us, and how are we getting them to convert with us, become long-term customers with us or clients, and then in turn raving fans. So really build beautiful, authentic relationships with the people that we serve. So what is the 24/7 marketing flywheel? So it's a 6-step process that essentially brings brand new people that don't know anything about who we are and what we do. We get those brand new people to understand our brand, our product, our service, what we do, right? We're just introducing them to what we do. So that's the awareness phase, right? And it brings it all the way through to purchasing with us, having a wonderful experience, and then becoming advocates for our brand, right? And helping to get referrals, do word of mouth marketing for us, right? This doesn't happen by chance. This is something that we will intentionally construct. So today I'm going to walk you through those 6 stages. And through subsequent episodes of the podcast, we're going to go deep dive into each one of these stages. And I'm going to be giving you examples of how you can be utilizing different tactics at these different stages, and really understanding what success looks like and how to make data-driven decisions based on what the metrics and the results are telling us about the activities and the tactics you're running at each one of these stages. But for today, I just want you to understand globally what this framework looks like. And I want you to be asking yourself as I go through this process, are you doing something that is working for each one of these stages, right? Do you have tactics running that will support each one of these stages? And if not, I want you really to lean in during these episodes to figure out how can we fill in the gaps. And before I go through those stages, I want to be clear. If you are a CEO or founder leading your marketing, that you don't have a dedicated marketing director or chief marketing officer in place, then you are essentially needing to be the leader in marketing. Or if you are the leader in marketing, like you are the marketing director or the chief marketing officer, I want you to understand that your only job when it comes to marketing needs to be to make sure that your 24/7 marketing flywheel is built, that it is complete. And then from there, you just have to work on iterating and improving. And so when you think of things in terms of those 2 tasks, right? Making sure you have a full and thriving flywheel and making sure that it is constantly being iterated and improved upon, then I feel like things become much clearer, right? Because you know what your one thing is. You know what your one thing that you could focus on, iteration and improvement of the flywheel, leading your team to get better performance, better results, better conversions at every stage of that flywheel. That amount of focus is going to really lift a burden off your shoulders, because now you don't have to be running around doing all the things, worried about all the things, right? So we have to make sure the flywheel is churning and that it's producing, make sure it's iterated and improved upon. And so you step into the shoes of a leader and you go into a role of guiding and encouraging and leading and teaching everyone that you're working with on how they could be iterating and improving the piece that they're responsible for. And that's where things really start to shift from a manic kind of random execution of things in the marketing to a systemized, organized, strategic approach to your marketing department. So let's get into it. What is the 24/7 marketing flywheel? So the first stage is our awareness phase, right? How are we getting in front of brand new people each and every day, week, month, year? And the key point I want to be very clear on is brand new people. Okay, so a lot of times we are massaging an audience, or we kind of have our followers on social media, or maybe we have like a lead list, right, that we've been working through. We need to make sure that we have a system in place for for constantly getting in front of brand new people. So every day we have new people knowing about who we are and what we do. This is really the most important part of filling a pipeline, right? It's how the pipeline gets filled is by first people even knowing about you and what you do. And many times, if you're having a lead problem, it's oftentimes because there's just simply not enough people learning about what you do every day, right? Because not everyone that becomes aware of your business is going to become a lead, right? But we need a volume of awareness out there in order to be able to convert them into leads, right? That is the key. So, what are some activities we could be doing in the awareness phase? Well, we could be running ads. And in this stage, I also like to consider like a cold outbound strategy, even though that's usually considered like a sales activity. But for me, I think that every business should either be running ads or running an outbound strategy, right? This is a way that we're intentionally targeting and going after those right fit prospects, right? We're intentionally, getting into their line of vision, essentially, right? The next strategy is a search engine optimization, SEO. And by search engine nowadays, it doesn't really mean search engine, right? This also is how are we optimizing our copy on social media, for example, for search, or are we able to be shown up for AI search results? There's a lot of really dynamic things happening now between AI and social media when it comes to keywords and SEO. And so this is a way that we could be discovered by folks who are typing queries into search bars. And nowadays, search bars are in a lot of different places, right? So we could be building a strategy around optimizing for those keywords and connecting with people in that way. The last way we really could be reaching new audiences is through partnerships, right? And leveraging the audiences of other brands or other individuals. And this could look like, consistently showing up at conferences and events. This could mean running workshops and events together with other businesses. This could look like, influencer strategies, right? But it's sort of like, how are we going into spaces where our right fit prospect is already hanging out and there is a level of like, know, and trust factor already baked in? How can we leverage that? So these are the activities we can do in the awareness phase. That's the first phase. The next phase is engage. So once we've caught their attention, how are we essentially introducing ourselves to each other and getting their information, right? So in real life, that means how are we exchanging information, getting someone's business card or having them follow us on LinkedIn, right? But in the digital space, this means how are we essentially getting someone's contact information, their email address, their phone number, so we can continue to talk with them and continue to build a relationship with them, right? So we need a mechanism in place in the engage phase in order to do that for us. Because we know that if someone knows about our brand or our product or service one time, it's not enough, right? It's not enough for them to actually follow through with a conversion, with a purchase. So we need a mechanism by which we can continue to check in with them and follow up and build that like, know, and trust factor. And in order to do that, we need that contact information. So the engage phase is how are we sort of getting that information from this pool of people that now know about our product or service. But the key here in the engage phase is to layer a bit of qualification in this stage, right? When we're getting their information, we want there to be a layer here that's qualifying them as a sales qualified lead, right? Essentially is that we know that they have a problem that we can solve and that they're interested in solving them, right? At that stage, they're more like a marketing qualified lead. But as marketers, we want to make sure that the SQL and the MQL are as close as possible. That's the ideal scenario, right? So we want to have a way that we qualify them and get their information. So we've got aware, engage. Next is nurture. Nurture. And this is a huge opportunity for so many B2B businesses. How are we nurturing and building that like, know, and trust factor in order to get those prospects ready to buy with us? So nurture activities could look like showing up on social media. It could look like sending regular emails. It could be hosting a podcast. It could mean writing blogs, all of these things will build your business or yourself as a thought leader, and in turn build that like, know, and trust factor. Because nowadays, I mean, it's always been this way, but I feel more now than ever, in order for people to sort of open up their wallets and pay for your product or service, especially if you have something that's more of a higher ticket, there needs to be that level of trust, right? There needs to be that level of trust. And so that individual needs to feel confident that whatever product or service you're offering them is really going to, deliver the transformation that they desire, and that, it's that you're going to keep your word, right? Do what you say. So there is a level of trust that we need to establish, and that happens in the nurture phase. And the way that we do that in the nurture phase is even just by simply showing up consistently. Showing up consistently, it may seem frivolous, like, am I posting consistently on social media? Am I sending my newsletter out, at the same time or the same day of week every, consistently, right? These small things help to build trust and think, hey, you've got your stuff together behind the scenes, speaks volumes for how you're going to treat a customer or client when they actually purchase with you, right? So aware, engage, nurture, invite. So invite is when we're asking for folks to get on that sales call with us. We're asking to book the demo. We're asking to do the audit. Whatever our sales mechanism is, our sales call, we need to have a system in place where we are continuously asking those nurtured leads, inviting them to take the next step with us, right? And again, it makes perfect sense because we need folks to have that level of trust and a little bit of context before they get onto the sales call with us. And this is kind of where the MQL, marketing qualified lead, switches over to the SQL, sales qualified lead, because in our communication, we're going to be, asking questions or posting content that's going to really help the prospects that we have, the lead that we have, to self-select and self-identify if they have a particular problem that we're calling out during this invite phase. And what I like to recommend to my to the founders that I work with and the business owners that I work with and the CEOs is that we have a campaign, a promotional calendar, where once a quarter we are running a kind of bigger communication to our list and maybe out through our social channels that's really inviting people to take that next step, right? That either we're making an announcement or launching something or doing a promotion or, showing something special, something newsworthy or noteworthy to our contacts, and then encouraging them to book the call with us and take the next step. We need to bake that into our process, but there has to be a balance, right? A lot of times I see businesses kind of focused on one over the other. Either they're too much into nurture and they're just giving like a lot of valuable information and they're never actually asking people to take the next step. Or alternatively, the only communication that they're doing is trying to make that sale. And so there has to be a balance, because if you're only asking for the sale, that also builds a lot of distrust with people, and it's going to make them less likely to convert with you. So that's the invite phase. Now after the invite phase, right, is when folks become paying customers or clients. And then we move on to the next phase, the fifth phase, which is delight. Now, obviously, we need to create an amazing experience for our customers and clients. This is like table legs for any business, right? Customer service. We need to, our product or service needs to work. But marketing can affect this greatly, right? Marketing can affect the perception someone has of the experience with you and your business. And so this could look like, what is the communication that you're putting forth before, during, and after they've received your product, or before, during, and after the service. There are also different programs, different ways that we can surprise and delight our customers and our clients while we're working with them. This could be giving them something extra they didn't expect, or giving them gifts or things like that. But how are we really creating a wow experience? That's the delight phase. And it's often, I find, the most creative and fun part of the flywheel. But again, it's a piece that often is missed, right? Because once they've become a customer, right? Once they've paid, a lot of times we tend to forget and move on to the next one, right? But I'm encouraging you to make sure that your marketing department is helping to work with your customer service and craft these experiences for you, for your customers and clients, because it's going to make a huge difference when we roll into the last and final phase, which is delight. Sorry, not delight. I just said delight. The last and final phase is advocate. Advocate is how are we implementing systems that are going to get those happy, delighted customers to help fill that flywheel again. And we do that through things like case studies. We do that through gathering testimonials and reviews. But in order to get those things, we need to ask for those things. And in order for those things to be effective, we need to craft them in a way that's going to be useful for us, right? So putting some thought behind what is the format of our case study, right? Testimonials. What are the things we really want people to say? The questions we ask folks when we're asking for a testimonial can be very influential in what we get back from them. So not being haphazard on this stage, but really intentionally designing, how we're asking for reviews, testimonials, building those case studies, and then what are we going to do with those? Because we can do a lot, right? We can put them on our website, right? But we can also arm our sales team with those resources. So when they're talking to prospects, we have some things up our sleeves that we can share with those prospects. So those prospects know that you've served folks like them before, that you understand them, right? These testimonials, case studies, they do an incredible amount for building trust in that area, right? But from a marketing perspective, the question becomes, how can we put systems in place that make that a seamless experience, that we're getting those reviews, testimonials, and case studies without it having to be a huge effort? Because most businesses will think about that like once or twice a year and then do some big campaign to try to get some testimonials, things like that. But what I want for you is to bake that into the system so it's not like a sporadic random effort, that you have a consistent influx of testimonials and case studies and things that we can use, because again, we can use them in a lot of different ways. I mentioned the sales team, but we can also put them, through our social platforms. We can, create elements of, spotlighting happy customers on our website. All of this is going to help future customers and clients convert better with us, right? More easily. So just to recap, we've got these 6 stages. It's the aware, engage, nurture, invite, delight, and advocate. And when we put these 6 pieces together, we build an unstoppable, scalable marketing program for our business, right? And again, it's not about doing 100 different things for each one of these 6 stages. My recommendation is to really start with just doing one tactic for each one of these 6 stages and figuring out how that one tactic is going to work for you before moving on to the next. So if we go to awareness, for example, my recommendation is, well, let's work on making sure we have one thriving channel for awareness, right? That our ads are actually working or our partnership strategy is actually working before we start piling on a bunch of different things to do. Because often what I see happening is that marketing departments bite off way more than they can chew, and they have their hands in a lot of different projects, a lot of different tactics, and the results are none of those things are actually getting results. So in order for a particular lead generation channel to work for you, there needs to be some like brain power put behind executing that, right? And analyzing the data and iterating and improving upon that small piece of the puzzle to figure out what really works. And once you figure out what really works, you can move on to the next thing. You can open more channels, you can do more things, right? But we want to not just eat the whale in one bite. We want to eat the whale bit by bit. Make sure that all of those tactics are performing for us, because all of those little tactics, those 6 stages, right? If we're doing one tactic that's working for each one of those 6 stages, you're going to have a really successful business, right? And then the the growth possibilities are infinite as we iterate and improve and open up different tactics and try and experiment with little different things. So this is the 24/7 marketing flywheel. I want you to ask yourself, do I have a full and thriving flywheel running in my business? One that is engaging with brand new prospects continuously and moving them through a journey where they are nurtured and ready to buy with me, right? And if not, I would say start, writing down some ideas, because these ideas, these projects, the ways that we need to fill our flywheel or fill the stages of these flywheel to create one that is full and thriving, these become what our quarterly goals could be for our marketing department, right? That if we need to create a system for getting those testimonials or building those case studies, that becomes someone's quarterly goal. And so little by little, you'll be able to build this out. And again, we don't want to eat the whale in one bite. This is, not easy work, right? It's simple, but it's not easy, and often takes a lot of creative power, a lot of strategic thinking to actually build all of these stages out and have them be performing well for you. But in my experience, it's really the only way to build the machine for marketing that's going to continue to turn, and it's going to give your team the freedom, the flexibility to be creative and test and iterate and improve on things, because we know that the basic pieces of marketing are running, right? And from that data, measuring the performance of each one of these stages, we can identify where is the loose piece in this puzzle, and then we can spend some resources in improving that piece, right? And that's part of the iteration and improvement phase. So I ask you now, right? Do you have a full and thriving 24/7 marketing flywheel, or do you feel stuck on any one of these stages and what you should be doing for your business? If the answer is yes to that, please stay tuned, because this quarter is all about marketing strategy. We're going to be diving deep, deep, deep into each one of these 6 stages, and you're going to leave these next couple episodes really understanding what you should be doing for your business. And as always, if you have a question, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM. I love hearing from you guys, and I love opening up conversations over DM and talking more deeply about your specific needs for your business. So I would love to hear from you. But until then, keep going, keep building your marketing efforts, keep growing your business. I know you can do it. I know that the success wall for you is limitless, but it does take a little bit of focus. So that's what I'm going to help you do over the next couple of weeks when it comes to your marketing strategy. So I'll see you back here next week.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. Thanks for sticking around with me and listening all the way to the end. I really appreciate you as an audience member, and I hope that you found this helpful. If you did like this episode, it would mean so much to me if you subscribed, if you rate and review this podcast. It helps other people know that this podcast has something worth saying. It also would be super awesome if you could take a screenshot and share on Instagram and tag me at Ugly Ventures, UGLI Ventures, VENTURES. I am always so appreciative to hear from you, and I hope to see you back here next week